What's going on, everybody? My name is Rob, and I'm the host of The Curated Culture, a weekly podcast dedicated to dissecting the latest and greatest news from around the world of tech and pop culture. Now, we all know the internet can be a busy, noisy place, so let us calm that noise for you. Join us as we discuss the latest and greatest topics from the people and sources that matter most. Check us out every Thursday as we jump into fresh, original content, new interviews, and a host of other subjects that we know you'll find interesting. So jump in to whatever your favorite podcast app is and search The Curated Culture. Make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. And in the meantime, we'll catch y'all on the air.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hi, and welcome back to Realistic Sustainability. I'm Mike, and I'm not here with Nick. I'm not, and you're probably thinking it's Rob, but you're still wrong. I am here with my lovely, lovely wife, Jamison.
It's me.
It is you. Did you know that, like, in the first few years, we had you on here and there, and you had like a little kind of a cult following there for a minute?
Well, I'm back for all my fans.
Back for your fans. So did you just miss being on the show? Is that what's going on here?
Well, of course. Feeling left out, I guess.
Right. I mean, you've done live episodes. You've done some recorded episodes. It's been a long time. How long has it been since you've been on a show?
Probably, I'd say at least a year and a half.
Really? Okay. Well, you're on a show again. We'll call it a special episode.
Dust off the cobwebs. How's that?
But that's okay. It's fashion related. I remember at first you wanted to be a part of the fast fashion episode, but you wouldn't get up in the morning.
No, you're recording at like 6 a.m, and that doesn't happen for me.
Well, it was 7, which is a whole hour later. You could have done it right from bed. We could have had Nick and yourself both on the show, and you could have just joined us from bed.
I don't know if you know this, but I already have a deep voice, and when I wake up in the morning, I sound even more manly. So they would have just thought it was Nick or Rob on with you anyways.
Well, we would have said it was Jamison. I'm not sure you would have liked it as much, but still, it's the same thing applies. But anyways, since you missed fast fashion, we figured you can join us for fast furniture. It's a lot like fast fashion, just for your house.
Oh, sounds
quick. The more you research it, the more quick you realize it actually is, for more than one reason. But I appreciate you joining and sharing your insights today.
Oh, well, hopefully I'm insightful.
Well, we're going to hold you to it. So,
good.
Fast fashion. So when I say fast fashion, what do you think?
Fast fashion?
Yeah. Or, here we go. I'm going to have this problem the whole time, I bet you. Fast furniture, because we've done fast fashion.
Something on wheels. I'm going to go with something on wheels.
Something on wheels. Well, just so you know, to sell myself out even more, my notes that I have here say fast fashion.
Oh,
that's not going to help me. That is not going to help.
No, not in the slightest.
Fast furniture is any furniture that's poorly constructed and cheap, that is designed to only last as long as the fad in which it's designed for.
Oh, all right.
It's kind of one of those things for people who like to change their decor. This is a cost-effective way to be able to do that, is to be able to change it often, because it isn't going to last for a long period of time anyways. It either is going to break, and that's going to be what's the deciding factor to redo the living room, or B, you're just going to decide it anyways, and you can afford it because you didn't spend much on this and you're not spending much on the next one.
Right. I feel like this is any furniture I had in my 20s.
Yeah, actually, IKEA has made a living off of dorm room furniture, and we'll get into that in a little bit, because fast furniture, man, this is going to kill me, is a $150 billion industry annually.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot of really cheap bookshelves.
Right.
Because think about how many times you go to a garage sale and there's always that, it's usually either black or pretend wood grain bookshelf, 2 shelves.
The
Uh,
press board.
yeah, when you look underneath it, it's still sitting on the screws, but they've ripped holes in you can see the screw. It's just kind of sitting on it instead of being drilled into it anymore because someone has
Right.
pulled up on it. That furniture.
Okay.
The stuff that someone has realized that if I sweep up all the shavings and glue them together, I can still make a board.
Well, that sounds like you're speaking from experience. Actually, you are. When we first met, you had one of those that you had
Oh,
compressed and glued, and I'm sure there was duct tape somewhere holding your
absolutely.
holding your school books.
Well, and that's during that time I was in school, so most of the
Mhm.
things you saw was something I found on the side of the road and went, I think I can make that shelf stay there. And so there was a ton of particle board, which is bad for a guy my size. So you got to be careful sometimes. But so when I think of fast furniture, I think of certain stores. Globally, IKEA is one of them, but Amazon is now one of those who deliver it everywhere. When I typed in fast furniture, starting my research, guess the company that put a pop-up ad immediately on the very top of Google.
So it wasn't Amazon and it wasn't IKEA?
Nope.
Walmart.
No, actually, that's a good guess. Wayfair.
Oh,
All I did was type in fast furniture, which, by the way, when it comes to furniture, is kind of derogatory. And all it was Wayfair. Everything I saw, this ad after ad after ad. Now my Facebook and everything else is all Wayfair. Wayfair sells not quite as much as IKEA or Walmart, but they are darn close to global sales in fast furniture. And that's the bulk of what they sell.
well, and
Now,
I feel like when Wayfair first started, they were a little more structurally sound than quote unquote fast. I mean, I believe that's where we purchased
Mhm.
our bed from.
Yeah, it was. And I really had to work to find good quality
Right.
furniture.
You did. You looked a lot. You looked really hard for each of the details of our bed and the kids' bed and beds,
Mm-hmm.
I should say.
Well, and it wasn't even just online, which you almost expect to have to really dig into it online. It was going to the local stores. I was constantly checking the materials. Things generally aren't made with all of the wood anymore.
Right.
It's usually sawdust veneered.
Right.
And that's part of the problem, is that especially things like bed and couches and chairs, they come apart so easily.
Yeah.
It is something that is not expected to last. They'll pretend like it's going to. We're going to give you a quote unquote 2-year warranty that if you try to use it will cost you more than a couch
Mhm.
because you got to ship it to them or something. And that's a lot of stamps. But it's like, so
'Cause that's how they
Amazon,
do it.
yeah. Well,
Just put like 4,000 stamps on a couch.
you should. Yeah. You want to make sure it goes through US Postal Service. We don't want to use other companies. But and I'm sure they have another way of doing it, but I always say stamps. But Amazon, IKEA, Wayfair, Home Depot, Big Lots, Walmart, all of these, any furniture packed in a flat box is probably a good way. That it's fast furniture because there isn't a piece of wood there should be a piece of wood bigger than the thickness of that box. You ever see how they pack that stuff? I'm an engineer and I'm wowed by it's only 8 inches thick, but there's a couch in here somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
So but that's what it is they're just shipping it from one side of the world to the next, back and forth. And even though they're cheaply made, and I mean that value wise and cost wise, there is an amazing amount of energy and chemicals and all these things, glue. Because really what it was is they started with all this waste wood, right? They would make nice furniture, but on the ground there was chips and pieces and sawdust. And someone had come up with the idea that if we glue it all together, we can make wood-ish type things, right?
Yeah.
And which was fine. You got to use a little waste, you got to create something, and you still sold another thing. At least it wasn't wasted. Well, over time, a certain person wrote a book called The Beginner's Guide to Greening Your Life. And in that book,
Oh,
there
who
was
is that?
oh, we'll let people Google it.
I bet he's
But,
handsome.
I've heard.
Yeah. Rumor has it.
There's a chapter in there that talks about the age of disposability. And especially in the United States, they move to this throwaway culture. More of those sold, more of that cheap sawdust off the floor furniture sold than the more expensive, more permanent furniture. Because how many times have you looked at your parents have a bed from when they were younger, but the thing is still, rock solid, but it's uglier in sin.
Oh, my grandma gave me a 9-foot long couch when I first moved out. It was huge. And it was the velvet where it was like soft one way, but then when you rubbed the other way, it felt like a cat's tongue. It was really gross. And it was orange and blues. It was hideous. That was the most comfortable couch I've ever owned. I slept on that couch a lot because it was more comfortable than my bed.
Was it heavy and hard to move?
Oh yeah, it even had a pull out bed in it, and I got cussed out by my brothers when I asked them to help me move it to my 3rd-story apartment.
Third story. I'll say the same brother who was totally cool with moving a piano.
Yeah.
Okay, well that says a lot about the couch.
Yeah, it was heavy.
But that's because it was made of wood. And that one is also steel. But
yeah,
most of that furniture is made to last. The problem is our taste changes.
Yeah, I really wasn't fond of the orange.
No, I mean it's and no one ever thinks, hey, maybe I'll go find someone to reupholster this. Because we've moved to this throw it away, buy a new one, throw it away, buy a new one, there isn't anybody in town that does that job very much anymore.
Yeah. No, that's really true, because I am on a couple like Facebook woodworking pages, and a lot of people who, do woodworking and build benches and furniture, and I mean, you name it, just decor in general. They, are always saying how hard it is for them to sell something. And if they do find people interested, the people are always, oh, well, that's just way too much. That's too much money. But they have, real wood, like quality wood, and tons of time. And, it's a labor of love on top of that. And they just have a real hard time selling it because everyone is into, and their biggest complaint is Amazon.
Yeah, it's well, and we have friends and family who complain about things like the company of Amazon, but yet we'll go to Walmart and buy the exact same thing. The only difference is they drove to go get it. It's the same. It's quite often the same product because it's Sonder who's selling their furniture at both places. So they're buying the same thing. They're just having to work for it. It's not like it used to be when you went to buy furniture, you looked for something that you knew you were going to keep for a long, long time, 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
But now no one even considers that because it isn't going to last 30 years. It isn't going to last 10 years. And and in the United States, I've not sold that people want it to last more than 10 years because it's not cute. It doesn't fit the motif. It doesn't flow with the house now. I've made some changes. I have to change the furniture.
Yeah. I do feel, though, that there is a uprise in a trend of buying old furniture, quality old furniture, antique stuff, and repurposing it. I see a lot of, the reels or the TikToks and stuff like that where, it's kind of become hobbies for typically a lot of women, but I see men do it too. And I think that's pretty cool that they're taking furniture that they found on the side of the road or that their grandma handed down to them, and then they're repurposing it to look, it always looks amazing, when they're done with it. But I think I have noticed that is becoming more of a trend. Whether that trend will stick around or not is yet to be seen. But
Well, and I think that's a skill you have too. You like to refurbish and rework a lot of things like that, or utilize materials from one thing to build something else. And I
Mm.
appreciate it. I never know what you're doing and I never fully understand it till it's done, but I've learned to nod and smile and enjoy what comes out of this love of labor.
Well, if we had a bigger yard and bigger garage, we would have furniture from all over the place. Every time I'm driving to work on garbage morning, I'm like, oh man, I want to pick that up so bad, but I have no place to put it. Oh man, I want to pick that up so bad, but I have no place to put it. We would probably have a whole warehouse full of people's junk that I want to do things to.
Yeah, there is a whole segment of people who really enjoy what they consider to be antiquing, but really what they're doing is looking for something that is a quality enough to rework.
Yeah,
Because what are you going to do? Sand down the IKEA chair?
no,
It will turn into sand. It will.
right.
It will. The insides will be on the outside very, very quickly.
Mhm.
So you can't exactly take the veneer off and stain the sawdust. So people are looking for things that are still made of wood, but that's becoming harder and harder to find because people aren't buying new pieces. Those
Yeah,
old pieces are becoming quote unquote antiques just for the fact that they're considered rare to have
right. And
solid
they're
wood.
harder to find for sure. They are harder to find.
Well, and think about this furniture, just furniture, 10 million tons of furniture are put in landfills every year.
Oh wow.
So 10 million tons. And some of that is I got rid of grandma's couch because it's ugly. And some of it is time to swap out the IKEA furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot of waste that goes into that. I think last time, the last show with fast fashion, we talked about. I'm trying to remember the company. It's like H&M. It's one of
Okay.
those big fast fashion companies. Actually gives away enough, or like hundreds of tons of unsold clothes to an energy provider in Switzerland to burn so they can
Oh
use it
wow.
for electricity. And this wood isn't even getting to do that.
Right.
And if you look at Consumers Energy or any of the major energy providers in the United States, they get to count wood as a quote unquote renewable resource. If you look and say, like, if you go to Consumers Energy, who we use, about 7% of all the energy they provide is quote unquote green or renewable. Of that 7%, more than half of it is wood.
Wow.
And it makes me wonder because I don't know. When I was younger, we used to go up north a lot, and you would run across full sections that were just cut down. It looked demolished, it looked desolate. Tree branches on the ground, no wildlife around, just desolate. And I don't know if that was commercial, where parts, the state of Michigan was selling off parts of the forest, or if that was something that we sold off to the energy provider to allow them to burn as fuel. But I do remember seeing clear cutting up
Yeah.
north as a kid, just kind of watching out the window as we drove. Now I'm happy to say that's not something I see anymore up north. I think most of our forests are relatively protected, but I do remember seeing it.
Wow. Yeah.
And with that, like, when it comes to these industries, we cut way more than we can grow, at least speed wise. And it made me wonder how many trees do we cut down a year? Because I think they rotate regions. Right now, a ton come out of Brazil. The Amazon is just getting chunked out. And the wildlife areas are shrinking very, very quickly. The leadership in that country is very prideful of the destruction of the Amazon,
Mm.
which, by the way, is one of the Earth's lungs. The oceans being one lung, the Amazon forest being another, a smaller version, but another. And that current administration prides itself on how much they're ripping it down because to them, it's a resource, it's money. And if they rip it all out, they then get land, usable land. So to a uneducated politician who worries about their lifespan only, that sounds like a great financial deal.
Well,
But it,
and they're probably looking at it in terms of jobs and the economy in that sense. They're not looking at the overall health and of the people and health of the area.
Yeah, no long-term thought. It's right now financial gain. It really is what it is. But humans cut about 2.5 million trees a day.
Wow.
Now,
That's
a
insane.
big chunk in South America, large swaths in East Asia, Thailand, Korea, places like that. The problem is that out of all the trees cut down, 40% of the total is for furniture.
Oh, wow.
40% of all the wood cut down in a year is so we can sit on it, lay on it, eat off it, or primarily decoration. Some furniture has no purpose. Some furniture is right there by the window.
And if it were up to you, we would have no decoration furniture and just useful furniture.
Absolutely, I'm all about functionality. But 40% of it, and crazier than all of that, IKEA uses 1% of the world's wood supply every year
Oh my, on their own?
on their own.
Holy crap.
1% in their little maze of a store that, if you really want the meatballs, you got to finish it out. There's no other way to get out of an IKEA without a helicopter.
I think I've only been there once and I had such bad anxiety.
Well, it's literally a rat maze. Like I kind of feel like they're trolling us as
I
we're
want
going
to know what their
through.
plan is for a fire. No one's going to be able to get out of there.
Oh, no one's going to know there's a fire. It's completely surrounded with kindling.
Right.
And they'll have to rope off the neighboring city from the toxic fumes.
Right.
Because remember, it's like heavy chemical wash, even though there's very little wood. It's like a veneer that they've waxed over, filled with glues and adhesives, with like flame retardant chemicals sprayed into it. We do shows every year about sick building syndrome because I feel like that's something I want to talk about every single year for the health of a household. And VOCs are the volatile organic compounds. All of that. I always say this word wrong, so you'll get the pick on me too, like Nick did. Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde?
Yeah, that word.
Formaldehyde.
I never say it correctly, but all of those things go into these processes, and over the next 3 years, because it's only going to last 2.5, it just off gases in your home. So if IKEA caught on fire, you should probably just evacuate at least 100 miles in all directions, or at least the wind direction. But that's part of what we get from sick building syndrome is all this new furniture. Oh, back when I was a kid, my parents would buy furniture, and it would be their furniture for even today, quite often,
right.
unless it didn't fit in the next house, which that's why their old bed and stuff is gone. It stayed. It was done off gassing.
Yeah.
When it's there 10, 15, 20 years, moved from house to house to house, and is still functional, you're at least no longer getting the negative health effects from it. But if you're replacing your furniture every 2 to 3 to 5 years, you get a fresh new start on formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. I have it on the screen here. None of this is good. I'm going to get emails about this. All of these different chemicals are just constantly new. That new car smell, that new furniture smell, that's a toxin.
And everyone loves that new car
I know.
smell.
Can't we get formaldehyde in a little tree to hang off of our car, mirror? No, very bad. Bad. I should have a squirt bottle. And on top of it, now that they're taking perfectly good trees and grinding them into crap wood, it's really energy intensive to take what you were going to cut and make into fun shapes and now just grind the crap out of it and turn it into sawdust so that you can glue it and do all these things. Because then it's cheaper, but it shouldn't be because you're using 3 and 4 and 5 times more energy now.
Well, and I will tell you too, you can also see even in the last handful of years, you were talking about they can't grow trees as fast as they cut them down. You can tell in the wood quality that they're cutting the trees down too young. Like if you and not saying that they necessarily should cut the trees down, but if you were to build a quality furniture, and let's say that we have an oak out or no, a maple. We have a maple out back.
Mm-hmm.
That maple's so old. If you were to cut that down, that wood would be pristine, some amazing wood. But they're trying so desperately to replace these trees and are growing them as quick as they can. And as soon as they get to a point of, okay, we can cut it, they cut it. And you can tell in the quality of even wood for someone who is building a deck or building furniture or any of that. Even that quality of wood is less than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see it
So
in all of our big box stores when you try to go get pieces of wood from a Home Depot or Lowe's or
yeah,
Menards. It's like buying, wood sponges.
yeah,
They're twisted. If you leave it outside for any length of time, it just turns into like a circle. And
yeah.
that's because they cut down all these hardwoods.
Hmm.
And in order to get a tree to come back faster, as if all trees are the same, they move to softwoods.
Hmm.
Softwoods are not as dense, obviously, from the name
Yep.
soft, and they grow quicker. That's
But even
part of
in that, you're not getting, even in moving to the softwoods, you're not getting a quality build, even if you built it by yourself, because those do break quicker or easier. I shouldn't say quicker. They break easier. I don't know how to explain this, but I started out working with pine and it is a softer wood. And I did that because one, it's cheaper, one, it's softer, and two, I could get it. There's a lot of wood that goes through my work with like pallets and stuff like that, but there's also stacking wood they use, and it breaks easier when you screw it together. So even in them switching to the softer wood, it causes for not as quality of a material, but at least it isn't the press board and isn't the
Well, it's all part of the single-use concept.
yeah.
They don't want to go to oak. It costs too much. I'm not going to use it again. They're not building these boxes and shipping them back and forth. They're building these pallets and shipping them back and forth. They're
Hmm.
using crap wood, knowing that when they go to drill a hole through it, it's going to go right through it. It's going to get
Yeah.
the item from point A to point B one time. So all of that wood existed for that one transit,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So when we look at how much wood we're using, $150 billion industry, when we look at 10 million tons in landfills, it's because no one ever plans to reuse a thing a second time.
Hmm.
And if they could get pressboard to hold a diesel engine, you'd have pressboard.
Yeah.
So it is quite literally working ourselves backward again into that disposability. It's easier to quote unquote throw something away and get something cheap than it is to do it right. And that's one of the
Well,
things I
and
do
if
at work.
oh, sorry.
It's one of the things I do at work is I'm constantly looking for ways to get rid of cardboard. I
Yes.
want my suppliers to not use cardboard. Yes, we're using plastic bins, but we're moving them back and forth. We're consistently using the same ones. We're very
Yeah.
rarely replacing them. And I spend a lot of time convincing a lot of people that in the long run, it's better because everybody looks at 90-day payoff, 1-year payoff. That is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do at work try to reuse pallets. Obviously, there are certain instances where, I mean, these engines are 2,000 and 3,000 pounds, and so sometimes they just straight up break the wood. But if a pallet is reusable, we definitely reuse it. If it's a couple pieces are broke, I've brought pallets home. I'm not a huge fan of working with pallets, though. They are a pain in the butt to cut up. But or a lot of the guys will use them for their bonfires and stuff like that if they're broken ones. But we try. I mean, aside from the fact that it's a wasteful thing just to throw away a pallet, they're expensive.
Well, we hear all these stats of all this wood and how much is going to landfills, but just the fact that we throw it away means we need more
Right, exactly.
instead of reusing something. Now, I will say that I'm sure that as people hear that you're working at a diesel repair shop, let's remember the collective gasp that
I
happens
know.
there, that you are in the business of refurbishing them.
Yes, we are. We are.
People aren't disposing of the engine and just getting another one. Your
No.
job is to make the old one work again.
Yes. We
But
make them just like they're brand new, but we're using the same core and fixing that up. It's still not insanely sustainable situation, but I just do the paperwork.
fair enough. The other part of this, because we throw away so much and we don't reuse it or find a use, we create loss of habitat. Like when I talked about looking out the window as a kid, there wasn't a lot of wildlife left. It looks desolate when you get a clear-cut area.
Oh, yeah.
And then they got to go through and they take heavy machinery to rip up all the stumps and burn them in a pile, then spread the ash back and replant. It just destroys everything. So it doesn't matter if it's in Brazil or in Michigan or in South Korea, all these harvesting locations are having these habitats destroyed. And I understand there's a certain segment of people who go, hey, we need it, everybody move, I don't care. But that wildlife is part of a chain that can affect people also. When there isn't a place for bees to have a home and it's just this desolate area, good luck having a farm.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like may say, oh, it's happening in Brazil, but that still affects us here. It's, there is the food chain, but then also just the oxygen in itself, that we get from trees. Like that is a huge, like you said, the lung of the world, or one of the lungs of the world. That's a big deal. It does affect us, even if we can't, see it happening right next to us. It still affects everyone everywhere.
And it's much more widespread than people think. There's actually timber theft. There are people timber theft. So it starts with Kia buys a ton of timber, which we've already discussed, 1% of all the wood in the world that goes to furniture. But they do a program where they say it's quote unquote certified timber, where countries red mark trees that say this one is at the end of its life cycle, or maybe it has disease but can still be used. And those are the only trees that they're getting. But the individuals they hire are kind of piratey, if you will. And they will sneak onto state land, federal land, different places, cut trees in the middle of the night, drag them out, and then red mark them themselves.
They're tree pirates?
They're tree pirates. That is literally what they are. There is a whole industry.
Do they cut it with their hook?
No, it's a whole process with saws. But it's in such demand that there are people who risk their lives because there's people on property who try to stop them. And then these are people who this is their livelihood in developing nations where they're stealing trees, red marking them and selling them.
Oh, wow.
So there is especially in South Korea, in the Philippines, in Malaysia, and in Brazil, there is tree theft, a ton of tree theft, just to fill the market gaps for cheap garbage furniture.
Oh, wow.
So that's a thing.
That's interesting.
So I think there's a Netflix series about it, actually. I'm surprised you haven't found it yet. Well, I don't think it's called that, but I think it should be.
It definitely should be.
But these are the widespread effects move well beyond the habitats, on top of the fact that the reason why we're getting it inexpensive from the other side of the world with twice as many processes and a hell of a lot more energy use is because we're using exploit labor.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, because I work in corporate atmospheres, they don't even say it. I mean, they don't even hide it anymore. Where that you quote unquote resource to an LCC, and that's low cost country.
Oh.
That there are countries now that are developing nations that they classify because of lack of regulation or no minimum wage or whatever it happens to be as desirable manufacturing locations, low cost countries.
Wow.
So,
and I'm super torn on, that's a whole nother thing, but I'm super torn on that because if you take that away from them and say, nope, we can't use those countries, that you're also taking food out of those people's mouths. It's kind of an ugly, vicious cycle.
Well, and industry always has been.
Right.
They've always said that industry breeds wealth to the middle class or breathes life into the middle class. But it usually takes a lot of dead people to get to that point. It's a lot of
regulations.
exploitation, a lot of loss of life, a lot of people and families destroyed before they finally stand up and say no more.
Mhm.
Then things like unionizing or just even working together for walkouts, that it takes a long time to go from exploitation to middle class.
Right.
So you're right. There's some issues there that I'm not real fond of either, because take it away, what little is there is gone.
Right. Exactly.
But really, should we be doing it? No.
Right.
I mean, small children do not need to be making clothing
No.
and furniture.
No, they don't.
They need to enjoy youth. Because
Right.
trust me, you get plenty of time to work later. So it's very widespread, from social issues to environmental issues to economic issues, all of that, because of that cheap bookshelf in the corner where the nails have ripped out the bottoms of the shelves.
Yeah. It's a lot deeper than just your piece of crap furniture.
Well, and it escalated during COVID.
Yeah.
And I know there's segments of people who said giving away quote unquote free money, which, by the way, not free money, part of your taxes,
I paid for that shit.
caused all this grief. But it wasn't for them. They wanted us just to buy stuff. It's part of the economy. It has to help. But during COVID-19, more things were bought and more things were shipped than ever before. The infrastructure in those shipping situations that really Amazon won is very robust, to the point now where if I need something, I can probably get it from Amazon quicker than I would have the motivation to go get it locally. And that's a problem.
Right.
Also,
Except for this whole new 2-day shipping thing, not a fan.
and we're getting close to the end here, but nearly 20% of furniture that's delivered is damaged in the process of shipping. Of that, 20% of that is still kept by the person because of their wonderful discount, and they just angle it a different direction to hide the damage or fix it themselves. But another 50% of that is just thrown on a pile, shrunk wrapped together and sold in bulk as damaged goods. And some of it, about 30%, is so damaged, goes to the landfill.
So it didn't even reach a house.
Never reached out. Well, it got there, but it probably got thrown up the steps or something, or fell down something, or got damaged in the truck. And what happens, so think about that just for a second. We take a tree, we turn it into sawdust and chunks. We run it in this huge vat with glues and formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. Mel. It's 4-mel.
Oh.
There, now you remember it.
So it's got to go through this process, laid out into sheets, dried. There's usually some trimming and cutting that is still done. You have all the cardboard and styrofoam, all the packaging, all the things that they do to get that, for all the design work, all the screws, the little dowels, everything that goes with it, packaged pretty, put into a box that seems to be 8 inches by 12 inches somehow. Shipped from one side of a sphere to the other side of a sphere. So a person who's not happy with their job drop kicks it onto your porch and damages it. So you can say, I don't want this anymore, which, by the way, it's going to get shipped back to the other side or wherever the closest warehouse is for that company. Money shifting hands back and forth, the original company being the one who gets screwed out of it, and then thrown away.
Yeah.
It was never an end table. All it was a heavy thing that someone moved from one side of the planet to the other.
Kind of like the little toaster that couldn't.
Yeah, I don't think I read that. I think mine was a train, but
the toaster was a brave little toaster.
Yeah, that's not one I've had.
It's a movie.
All right then. But that's the part because you know me with embodied energy and thinking about all that. So of all those trees that we cut down, all that stuff that's happening, all that, what did I say, 10 million tons, a huge chunk of that, because 30% of everything we build never stays in a home.
Yeah.
It just
Wow.
gets done and shipped to the landfill through the longest possible route.
So, what are things that we can do? What are changes we can make?
Well, some of that is simply normalizing reuse.
Yeah.
So the fad that you're talking about, actually, I did read that Gen Z is notorious for wanting old things to be refurbished and recreated and fixed. That obviously is number one,
Yeah.
is that if you're going to purchase something, try to do it secondhand first. Is there something out there? You probably got a family member who has something in the garage they don't even want in the garage. Can it be used? Does it fit what you want? Can you refurbish it so it does fit what you want? The American way seems to go, I want that. And it used to be immediately hop in your car, go to a big box store, get it and come home. Now it's, I want that. You bring up the web browser, you point at it, it comes in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's the stuff. Is that, like, the desk I'm at right now is your mom's old desk.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
find it.
IKEA, by the way.
Probably. I don't know.
No, it is. I'm
You
telling
know,
you.
oh, good. Oh, good. Thanks for being part of the 1%, bud. But at least it's still here. It didn't get thrown out. But that's the goal, is to, and if you have furniture that you do not want, don't bin it. Don't put it in that forever pile. Just find another home, find another use, find another person.
A lot of times, like I said, in my 20s, I lived off of hand-me-down, and I mean, some of it was fast furniture. I mean, I think my first end tables were those tiny Walmart ones that were like plastic and fake wood. But like I said, my grandma gave me my couch, and my mom gave me my table and chairs, and hand-me-down stuff. I have every time I think I've gotten rid of 2 couches in my life, because 2 couches in my life. And they were bought for like $20 from like the most ecstatic college student, like, to have a couch. They're like, yes, I don't have to play my video games on my beanbags anymore, I mean, even if you think it's hideous and oh my god, nobody's going to want to use this, there is some broke college student that's going to be thrilled with it.
Well, and maybe I was in college at the age of 36, 37, 38, but there's sometimes just broke me's that need something. There's always someone who can use it. So let's say you're financially stable and you don't need the $10, or you're not going to sell something for $5. Give it away. Just give it away. Give it to someone who will use it. Give it to a friend. Give it to a family member. They will appreciate it. Give it to the crafty one. There's a crafty one in every circle. Let them craft something amazing from it. Just don't let it go to the trash.
Another really good idea is a trend that my brothers and I started. And we will go around our mom and stepdad's house with sticky notes, and we will write our name on a sticky note and then stick it to whatever furniture, like on the back. So like mom doesn't see it till she moves the furniture. We stick it to whatever furniture that we want, or TVs or any of that. So we like claim it with our sticky notes. So when she goes to like, oh, I think I'm going to redecorate, she knows who to call, because whoever's sticky note name is on there knows that's who the next hand-me-down's going to.
I'm all about it.
It's aggressive. It is an aggressive situation. Sometimes sticky notes get moved and fights get started.
See, and that's the difference. In your household, it happens so often you guys picked a method to be able to get the items in which that are being swapped out. Where in my family, that old farm family, the sticky note will wear out before we get rid of the furniture. Right.
The pen will be off of the sticky note.
You won't even be able to see the writing.
Oh,
so
you tell Barb I'm gonna start bringing sticky notes.
Yeah. She's going to go, okay, well, we're not getting rid of it. So I'll let you know. Usually if the couch breaks and we can't get it fixed, then so that's what I love about sustainability. It's not a unique idea. It's what grandpa did.
Right.
And that's really all it is that we have to get away from this 80s learned disposability. And that's just ingrained in us. It's not that we've never been more sustainable as a society. It's just we were tricked into playing a commercial game.
Yeah, and that I feel like a lot of that started with like the 80s and 90s is when a lot of that started with fast furniture, fast fashion, where it started to get real fast furniture and fast fashion. It started to get really big. The buy scenarios started to really take off in those eras.
It was the mid 80s. Mid 80s is when we opened up trade with China and allowed inexpensive goods from other nations to come to the United States really for the first time. It used to be when you got something from China, like your plates, it was something we didn't even eat on.
Yeah,
it was expensive, and it sat in another very, very armored of wood, cupboard or cabinet, and we didn't even use them because it came from China. It was exotic.
For special guests only, and you must not have been special enough.
Right. That changed in the 80s. That changed very much in the 80s when we opened up free trade and inexpensive goods flowed in at high rates. And that is when disposability became a thing. And now you couple that with a change in how we acted in media, how we acted in entertainment, the movies of Wolf of Wall Street, the quote, greed is good, this mentality of mine, coupled with the same period of time. It created a generation who would be offended if I told them not to throw something out and buy another one.
Right.
That you're not, it's almost like you're not a good American if you're not spending every nickel that comes into you.
Right.
You know, that commercialism is more important than family almost, and which is what our holidays have become. And we'll get to those later in the season. But
I'm going to sit that one out.
but that's that era. That's that period of time when all of that changed. But anyways, I think we've kind of covered fast furniture pretty well. I think we've talked about a lot of the pieces and a lot of the things, at least the basic knowledge. And that's pretty much all I had today. So first of all, thank you everybody for listening. We always greatly appreciate it. I appreciate everybody dealing with our new cadence that we're not doing these every week. Unfortunately, life has made it to where that's not necessarily possible every time. I will always try to do a little more, but as of right now, we're sticking to every other week. So I appreciate the patience. No one has sent me any kind of major threats, so I guess we're okay with it. But I want to make sure everybody knows that we appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy this show, please take the time to click a like, maybe forward to a friend that you think would like this show. Do these little things because they do help us out. If you want to support us, and you don't necessarily want to do it financially, do it this way. This is just as good for us. So we do appreciate it when we see shares or we see likes or comments, because the more we interact, the better, especially with the fun little algorithms and all the social media sites. And remember, really all we're trying to do is get a little bit better. Little bit, big bit. I'm Mike.
I'm Jamison.
And at least I will see you in 2 weeks.
I'll see you later sometime.
Right. Bye.
Bye-bye.